Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Calamity Jane live stream. It's Monday at 9:30 on the East Coast and 6:30 on the West Coast. James, how's it going?
Doing just fine. How are you doing?
Hanging in there, hanging in there. Starting off a new week. Getting moving. My parents are moving, so I spent most of the weekend helping them pack their stuff up. It's the first time they've moved in 30 years, so it's
Mhm.
been an adventure. It's been an adventure.
I see that you're getting some hair growth back down
Yes,
there.
it's slowly but surely. I don't grow facial hair quickly, but it is persistent.
That's
So,
not bad. I mean, you were bald chin last week,
I
I think.
mean,
So,
my
you know.
hair is pretty fine and blonde, so
Oh, so you can't really.
yeah, it is what it is, I guess. But yes, in progress. It is a work in progress.
Cool.
So what do you have
On
for
my
us tonight, Mr. James?
on my side, just nothing's really changed. I think my hair got a little longer.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
as it
about
wants
it.
to.
Nothing.
Are you gonna go for the Rip Van Winkle, full on Rip Van Winkle at some
At
point, or
this rate, no, it's just me being lazy. I need to
yeah?
trim it. So. I guess we'll go right in and we're going to resume where we left off in our last exciting episode.
Sounds good.
I have some plans today, but I will go into share screen. And there it is. No running joke that I can use here.
No, no, not tonight, not tonight. The
Um,
advantage of running late was like I had to do a quick uh, mental run through of everything, and it actually popped up in the in the checklist, the mental checklist, so to speak.
um, so I think for tonight, I'm going to start working on Clem a little bit. I kind of want to start fleshing out this scene
Okay.
in general. Um, So yeah, that's the plan. Let's see here. Yeah, basically this scene. What I think for the next few sessions, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lay out the background here,
Mm-hmm.
kind of give a little bit of ground plane, and also do the design for Clem, and finally just kind of wrap that up. And I can't recall, Eric, if we talked about Clem off and on, but I don't know if we've ever got into detail about me sketching him out or drawing him.
We've not
Um,
really spent a huge amount of time on Clem. He will become a character that does things at some point in the series, but at least in the pilot, he's got a relatively small role.
yeah. Um, I know that you and we've talked offline about Clem and different designs and stuff like that. Here's a couple
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
throughout the period of working on him. So this one right here on the left is the most recent, really sketchy version of him that I kind of just drew out. But I've kind of played with him a little bit here, as you can see.
Mm-hmm.
One common theme I think to me is he's always boxy.
Yeah,
He's always
really a
a
really
smart
boxy
face.
face. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of the third one from the left.
From the left, one, two. This one.
Yeah, it's too Simpsons-y.
Yes, I'm with you there. We're gonna kill that one right now.
Okay.
Um, let's see here.
Oh,
Yeah,
he's back.
he'll be gone just shortly. I'll just need to leave him. No worries. All right. Yeah. So now we're down to these three, and they're all. I mean, they're pretty similar.
Mm-hmm.
I do notice I have kind of have him have with a mullet here.
A little bit of a mullet, yeah.
He does have it here too, I guess. But yeah, for
And
some
and
reason,
there's no saying that he doesn't in the first one. It just his hair kind of stops.
yes, and that's me hastily just trying to draw him for the storyboard.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, any thoughts about mullet versus short hair?
Um, I feel like Clem would be the kind of guy that if he were gonna wear a mullet, he would do it because he just doesn't care. You know,
Mm-hmm.
he Clem is the kind of guy who knows who he is and what he likes, and fads come and go, but Clem's position on his personal aesthetic remains unaffected. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so if he has a mullet, he owns it. It's completely his, right?
Yeah.
So, um,
So you would say it's not really out of character for him not to have a mullet.
I agree. Yeah, if a mullet looks good on the Clemster, then I say go with the mullet. Yeah. Yeah.
Clemster. You're already nicknaming this
I
guy.
guess. Yeah, it just came out of nowhere.
Um, well, let me just start. I'm going to start fleshing him out. I'm going to use this middle one. I kind of like only because it seems the most kind of complete out of
Mm-hmm.
all of them. So I'll start working on this one. Um, just kind of lay him out. But I always thought with Clem, his look is kind of more of a weathered look. Like he's been out in the sun a lot.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. I think for me, Clem is sort of he's the Wild West saloon equivalent of a barfly.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and the any Western movie that you watch, you know the hero walks into the bar, and they see all of the local color, who's always there, right? And they they never have
Yeah.
any lines, but they're always shocked by the antics that shortly ensue, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so Clem is definitely of that variety. There's no question about it. I do like the big chunky eyebrows, almost Eugene Levy-esque.
Yeah, it's a good show. We haven't finished watching the.
Oh, Schitt's Creek is great. Yeah,
Yeah, it is.
yeah.
It's really good. I think we got the wife and I got to about season 3 or so, but
Mm-hmm.
it's really good. I don't know why we haven't picked it up again, but there's so much other content to consume
There's a lot of
that
TV out there. There's no
you
question
get
about it.
distracted. I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I
So,
am still on my very very long journey through Star Trek.
are you on? You're DS9, right? Are you
I
almost done
am.
with DS9?
Yeah, I'm about halfway through season 5 of DS9. The Dominion War has just started.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
And so now, what do you? So I know you and I talk about this offline too, but I know you kind of go through just wearing, just kind of just bracing yourself through the first few seasons because they're boring. Is it picking up now that the Dominion War started?
Yeah, I mean, as everyone who has ever watched DS9 has indicated, once the Dominion War starts, the show gets really good. But man, 5.5 seasons of television, it was a bit much.
Yeah, I don't know if they could pull that off in today's market. To
No,
where
no,
it's
no,
been
they would.
5 seasons.
Yeah, I think the show was always lower rated than the Next Generation. It's one of the reasons why they brought in the Defiant. It's one of the reasons why they brought in Worf.
Yeah.
And I don't know enough about the history to know whether or not the Dominion War was something that had been planned from the very beginning, or if this was a plot device that they settled on at a later point.
Your suspicion is leaning towards what? You think that they did do that just to kind of
Well,
make it exciting?
I think I think at the beginning, I think like looking at it, it's reasonable. I think it would be a reasonable claim to say that the Dominion War, or what ultimately became the Dominion War, was reasonably, or it was planned from the beginning. Maybe not in exactly the form that it took by the time
Mhm.
they got to season 5, but they knew that there was going to be some sort of conflict with the Gamma Quadrant when the show started. I get that sense.
Mhm.
How well thought out it is, it remains to be seen to me. Um, but it just, I think, with that in mind, I think by today's TV standards, if the ratings started to flag, they would have just pulled the ripcord on that war a lot sooner, right?
Mhm.
There was no
Mhm.
reason. Once the Defiant showed up, and they were able to leave the station and go on missions, and it was a little bit more like traditional Star Trek. There was no reason why the Dominion War couldn't start, right? I think the ultimate betrayal by the one major character, um, when the Dominion War starts, would would be less impactful given the amount of time we spent with that character.
Mhm.
Growing to hate him in sort of a "oh, you crazy rival, you" kind of way, and there's like, "oh no, wait, right, you're actually a real villain. I forgot about that."
Mhm. Mhm.
But I think that it would have ultimately played okay. But I mean, I like Deep Space Nine. It definitely doesn't have the same place in my heart as um, the Next Generation. But the Next Generation, I was watching when I was 8 years old.
Yes,
That's
you
when
have
it
sentimental
premiered.
attachment.
Yeah, and I watched it with my father, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's
And
different.
so I have a very different emotional response to it than I do to Deep Space Nine.
Yeah, see, for me, like I tend to favor OG as my
Mm-hmm.
favorite Star Trek series.
Oh wow,
For
really going
again,
back to the original. Okay.
yeah, but I guess what I'm alluding to is but a lot of it has to do with sentimental too, because my dad introduced me to Star Trek with the
Mm-hmm.
OG, and
Mm-hmm.
he had no interest in Next Generation. Like it
Mm.
just yeah, he was just bored with it. So it was interesting, but I like them. I like them both. I think they're both terrific in their own way. You know, and there's always constantly a debate who's a better captain and all that stuff. I get it, but for me, it's the hamminess of OG that I enjoy. But yeah, you can't go wrong with either of them.
No, I enjoy both of them. I'm debating whether or not I have the stamina to continue on to Voyager, or if I need to allow myself a little bit of breathing room. Because I know that Voyager, even though it did get 7 seasons, the general consensus from everybody that I know is that it never really found out what it was.
Mm,
It never really had a it never really had its own voice. Like it was a really interesting start to the series, but then it didn't really succeed in bringing anything truly new to the Star Trek kind of mythos. And as a result, it got kind of a little boring, quite frankly.
mm-hmm.
And I only
I
watched like the first season or two of
yeah,
Voyager.
I watched the first episode,
Yeah.
and then I just checked out. I wasn't feeling it. Mainly because for me, and I don't know if there's any Star Trek people out there that know the true rumor about it or not, but I thought Linda Hamilton was going to play the role of Janeway, so I just kept in my head watching Linda Hamilton play that role, and she would have done a better job, in my opinion.
Hmm.
Uh, I just
I
didn't.
really like Kate Mulgrew, quite
Yeah.
frankly. Yeah, I thought she was pretty good. I think given the sort of stern nature of the character that she was given, I thought she did a lot with it.
Mm-hmm. The one thing, yeah, I don't know where she ranks in the pantheon of Star Trek captains. If a lot of people consider her one of their favorites or not, but yeah, just she didn't. Maybe I didn't give her a chance. You know, I didn't watch
Mm.
enough of it, but yeah, I just wasn't when I was watching it. I just couldn't get into it. Deep Space Nine kind of wore me out. I think by the time I got to it too, much like what you're saying,
Mm-hmm.
and that was spread over years. So
Mm-hmm.
you're binge watching it. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, have been for months.
yeah, so it's a little different for you. You're like sprinting through with them in a sense versus people that consume it weekly.
Mm-hmm. Well, and DS9 and Voyager were on at the same time for several seasons as well.
Did they kind of overlap a little bit, right? I
They
mean,
did. Like TNG, Voyager premiered in 92, I think. Not Voyager. Deep Space Nine premiered in 92. So it was on with the Next Generation for 1 to 2 seasons.
mhm,
And then Voyager premiered in what, 95, I want to say?
mhm,
And DS9 ended in 99. So they were contemporaries, pretty significant contemporaries.
mhm. Yeah.
Um, and it's funny for me in terms of captains. Like there are moments when Avery Brooks is like, yeah, I like this guy, right? When he gets angry and he really lets loose, I'm like, yeah, okay, I like this guy. But then he'll like have these tender moments with his son and kiss him, and I'm like, no, dude, no, no, that's
Why you can't? A father can't have tender moments with
I.
his son.
Maybe there's just too much German heritage in my blood, but like the
That's
idea of parents kissing their children, even if it's just a peck on the cheek, it's just like bizarre. I don't
mm,
understand parents kissing their children over a certain age, right?
mm, mm.
And so like we're in season 5, and at this point Jake is over 18 years old, and they finally let him move out of Cisco's quarters, and yet he's still kissing him on the cheek, and I'm like, I don't know, dude. I'm
Yes.
not a fan of this.
It's just too odd. It's just too weird.
Yeah,
Very
yeah,
weird.
and it
Okay.
just yeah, and like Cisco is weirdly over dramatic at times, in
Mm-hmm.
just in odd ways, and like there's a decent episode where he's the emissary, um, and so the prophets that live in the wormhole. Which I got to be honest, I've never really bought into this whole that whole thing. Like it
Oh yeah.
never. I don't know. I don't know how to. But in any case, um, uh, the prophets that live in the wormhole have declared Cisco the emissary, whatever that means,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm season 5, and it's still not totally clear what it means. Um, and he sees this painting of a lost city, um, that it sounds suspiciously like Valhalla, but is pronounced Valhalla. Um, and he has the hollow deck, one of Cork's hollow suites actually,
Mm-hmm.
take this magical pillar that's in the painting, featured in the painting, which apparently has coordinates to the location of Valhalla, and he figures it out, right? Like it's very much a, if you've ever seen Close Encounters of the Third Kind, it's a very interesting, it's a dramatic performance in the vein of Richard Dreyfuss's performance in that movie,
Okay.
and it's just, it feels so bizarrely out of character for what I imagine a Starfleet captain should be doing. And I guess it's my own biases, because
Mm-hmm.
it's not out of character for Cisco. Like Cisco's had these moments of
Yeah.
odd, um, almost fugue state-ish drama in previous episodes, but it's just never. It was just that episode in particular really. It just felt really hammy, even by
Mhm.
Star Trek standards.
Um, yeah, I do recall. I mean, it's been years since I've watched DS9. The only reason why I stuck through it for the most part was only because Worf was one of my favorite Next Generation characters. So
Yeah, yeah.
when he came over, it bribed me enough to want to stay and watch the rest of it.
But then it worked, because that's exactly
It
why they
did.
brought Worf into the show.
Yeah, it was a great move. I mean, he got a promotion, I think, right, by through the
Yeah, yeah,
DS9.
because he
All this
he
kind of
changed
cool.
to, yeah, the command track from the security track. Yeah,
Yeah, so I mean that was all cool. Like if you're a fan of him, you wanted to see him, kind of move up in the ranks and all that kind of stuff. So all that was cool. But I actually, whenever, especially during the role of emissary, I kind of tuned out a lot. I
yeah, I
would just
know.
kind of stare off into the distance and go, okay, oh, is this? It's a sequence now. That and I didn't, and I know they're all kind of interwoven, like the Kardashians, whatever they are. I couldn't stand that race
Well, they
of
are pretty central to Deep Space
yes,
Nine.
and they're central. Yeah, I just didn't. I just
Well,
felt like they were.
yeah, the seedy underbelly is that they brought the Cardassians into TNG to the degree that they did because they were trying to do a launch pad for DS9.
Yeah, like they were a villain constructed just for DS9 to just
Basically,
have them
right.
fight.
And then they introduced them through the Next Generation.
Yeah, and I just wasn't buying it with them. Oh, they're evil. Yeah, okay. They're just following this recipe book of
Mm-hmm.
what evil's supposed to be, and don't trust them and all. It's like, but the Ferengi, like, meanwhile, when they built up the Ferengi really blossomed in DS9. I love that. I loved what they did with them and the
Well, it's,
lore with them and everything.
yeah, the Ferengi, it's amazing how much they changed. I'm particularly aware of it just because I've been going at the shows for a while now. But the first time the Ferengi show up in the Next Generation, like they're treated as this sort of mysterious race that no one really knows that well. When they come up on the view screen, they're in front of this really harsh white light. You don't even see the bridge of their ship.
Yeah,
I love the way they say humans, right? Which is like the only thing of the old Ferengi that they maintain, right? Quark and Rom still say human whenever they're talking about them. But then everything else is totally fine.
Yeah.
Then there's
Yeah.
like their weird whip blasters, which no one ever seems to remember.
Oh, I don't remember those. What did they
Yeah.
do?
So they fling it out, and it looks like, well, I mean, it looks like a giant sex toy if you want to know the truth.
Jeez.
And they flip it out, and they hold it. The actors clearly had to hold the edge of the prop to keep it in a looped form, and they
Uh-huh.
would just let go of the end when they whip it out, and it would go flunk, and it would get really taut and straight, and then in post, the special effects artist would add the little blaster beam that came out of the
Oh my
end of it.
gosh. Yeah, I
And
don't
those,
remember them. Obviously, they weren't memorable enough for me to fear them or to
yeah,
get into danger from them. But
yeah, and they disappeared after the first episode, or the first time that the only episode that they were ever in,
oh my gosh,
and
funny.
it's so interesting to look at the very early form of the Ferengi, and then look at what they became through
Hmm.
Quark and Rom and Nog,
Yeah.
who, quite frankly, like are the three oh and and then the Grad Nagus, right, played
Mhm.
brilliantly by Wally Shawn.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, you
Yeah.
know,
Those handful of actors are what pretty much they and the writing obviously, but the actors I think in this particular case, I think the actors are what carried that.
oh,
Specific.
I absolutely agree. I read an interview where, and I don't remember if it was, I think it was one of the writers, where like we had Quark and we had Rom, and I had no idea what to do with these characters. And then
Hmm.
he got on the docket to write a very Quark heavy episode that featured his relationship with Rom, and it may have been the one where they go back to Ferenginar to
Hmm.
see their mom Moogie, and it was like it was the weird dynamics of I've since forgotten most of the details of the interview, but basically it was just the realization that Rom actually had something to offer, and Quark was taking advantage of it, and there's this sort of sibling rivalry because Rom has different skills outside of the traditional expectations of a Ferengi, and Quark being a more traditional Ferengi and not knowing how to handle his brother's desires outside of the realm of normal society, is that it completely reshaped the nature of who the Ferengi were in his mind, and apparently had a huge impact, right?
Hmm.
Because like if in the first season of Deep Space Nine, Rom was a fool. I mean, it's just a total fool, incapable of doing anything. And
Hmm.
now in season five, he's like Chief O'Brien's main go-to guy, right? He's
Yeah.
like working for the Bajorans and is like repairing DS9 almost as well as O'Brien does.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's really interesting, and these are things that you probably wouldn't notice watching them in the '90s once a week,
Yep.
right?
Hmm.
These are only things that become very apparent when you watch them back to back to back to back, like I have been.
Hmm. Yeah, you get to see the evolution like in hyperspeed a little bit. Again, you're not getting eased into it. You just get to see it like instantaneously. That's kind of that's interesting. I mean, it's kind of cool. You're kind of seeing it outside of the context of how they were writing it and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's cool nonetheless. Um,
Yeah, and it really goes to show how much they were sort of making it up as they went along.
mhm.
Um, because they clearly had an idea for what the Ferengi were in the early days, and it didn't materialize the way they wanted it to. I actually read an interview where Roddenberry originally wanted the Ferengi to be the new Klingons.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he wanted
Wow.
them to be the new big bad alien rival that the Federation had to deal with.
Huh.
And the guy who played the first Ferengi ever to appear in Star Trek in that first episode, I guess the way he ended up playing it, he blames himself to this day for that desire failing because they came off more comedic than threatening. But
Hmm.
with the design like that they came up with, like there's no way the Ferengi were ever going to be threatening looking species.
No.
Like all
Yeah.
the jagged out of place fangs, the giant oversized ears and skull. Like there's just no way anybody was going to be threatened by those things seriously.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm happy with how they ended up. I mean, but that is crazy. I didn't know that. Really, to rival the Klingons, that's pretty
Yeah,
ambitious.
it's a pretty tall order, but
Well, I think I'm at a pretty good spot.
yeah, he looks pretty cool. I really like the way he looks.
Cool. Um,
The one thing I
yeah,
do like, I liked in the concept art, the slight skew. Yeah, like it's not quite a square, but I like the square too. You see how it's like a little bit tapered,
yeah, I know. Yeah, there's a little bit of a
a
taper on
little
his.
bit of a taper, but
Yeah, let's just do that for fun.
let's see
Let's
what it
just do
looks
that.
like. Yeah.
Yeah, let's see here.
Yeah, I like the taper. I'm gonna be honest with you. You are the artist, so I trust your judgment. But I kind of like the taper.
Yeah, I like it too.
Okay.
I'm with you. I like it too. Yeah, I mean,
I think the mullet is right. I agree with you.
yeah, I think I'm liking the mullet too. I think that's definitely him. I still want to play with this color scheme a little bit as far as his outfit and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I started throwing colors, as we were running out of time. I'm just throwing down colors just to put something there. But his general feel is all there. I like it. I think he's pretty much in good shape. Uh, for fun, I'm just going to put him in the scene here. Let's see. Cuts to here. Yep. So I'll put him here. And I've got to figure out backgrounds, stuff like that. But cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Maybe squish him a little bit. He seems a little bit too much in the foreground. Whoop.
Yeah, I gotta scale him in a little bit here.
Yeah, there he
Get him
goes.
farther out.
Yeah,
I
he's a
run
little
right
bit farther
there.
back in the back.
But yeah, I think
Yeah,
we've got Clem kind of laid out.
yeah. He looks pretty cool. I like Clem a lot.
Yeah, cool. So I'll keep working on this. We'll
All
keep
right.
we'll keep going for next week. Maybe there'll be different color schemes on them for next week. But I'm also going to lay out the background for this particular scene. It's going to be pretty loose, but I
Mm-hmm.
have some ideas for this too. So we'll chat about that next week.
Yeah, that sounds good. All right. Well, we're a little bit early, but I think that this is a really good stopping point. So I'm going to call. I'm going to make an executive decision and call it for this week.
Sure. I mean, we can keep going on Star Trek, for a couple more minutes.
That's a subject that will never end. That's the thing. Like
Yeah, that is true.
it's
That is true.
we're talking thousands of hours of television. Thousands. Probably.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's actually thousands, but it's a lot. It's a lot.
I mean, I could lay in backgrounds for now. I mean, if I have a few more minutes, I could kind of,
We have a minute and a half.
let's just for fun. I'm going to lay down some really big
Oh.
blocks. I got to get rid of Calamity.
Mm-hmm.
And so we got a ground plane here. And this is going to be dark. No, not that. That's not it either. But
Is that sort of the maroon of the carpet?
yeah, I'm
Mm-hmm.
kind of laying down like a cherry wood kind of
Oh, I
feel
see.
to the wood floor, and also there is the red carpet too. But
Mm-hmm.
oh, well, that's
Mm-hmm.
fine. And then we're going to this will be a lighter brown here, and I'll get the tables in later, but that's too saturated. It's too much, but go this way. Okay, that'll pop him off.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I was going to do is windows, which
Mm-hmm.
and these are the wrong color, but they're going to be like this behind him. roughly.
Mm-hmm.
A whole bunch of these. And then, of course, I'll put the tables back here. But it still needs a lot of work. I mean, but that's kind of the general feeling I want to put into this scene. So tables all across here, Clem back here. He'll be kind of more. He will be farther back, like right around there. And then we'll just see the tips of these windows, something like this. I'm thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but we'll play with this next week a little bit more. But yeah, let's lay it in. But cool.
Cool. Very cool. All right. Well, I'd say that we're making progress as always, which is always good. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. And as usual, we'll be back at the usual time next week. And stay safe. And make sure to check out our Patreon site. You can find it. Just go to calamityjane.rocks. It'll forward you right there. All right. Good night, everybody. Good night, James.
Good night. Stay safe. See you next time.
Stay safe. All right. Good night.